Hey everyone, my name is Seth. This is the Books Business Growth Podcast, where we talk to Amazon sellers, e-commerce entrepreneurs, and business owners about their journey, what makes them tick, and why they have been successful. So without further ado, please sit back and enjoy the show. And we are recording. Hello, Natalie. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Seth. How are you? Thanks for having me here.
I am very well, thank you. It is an ungodly 15 degrees in the UK right now. So for some reason, it's super warm, so I can't complain. Sun's out. Been out for a run already. And looking forward to us chatting about all things Amazon. So we might as well just dive straight into it. I actually don't know anything about your story and how you got into Amazon. I don't know how far back it goes and things like that. So if you would be so kind as, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself and how you got into Amazon, whether you did any entrepreneurial stuff before or what you did do before that, so we can kind of like dig into everything about your journey in Amazon.
Well, I suppose the best place to start is at the beginning. So I met my husband when I was 16, which is a very long time ago now. And when I met my husband, you know, he was quite a similar kind of mindset as me, as in, you know, I was at college at the time and he was doing something else. And we were just sort of like, you know, when you just kind of click with someone and we were like, oh, I want to run my own business. I want to do something like that. I don't want to be working for someone else forever. And we both had that kind of mindset really, really early on. And we've kind of been going out for a few years. And this was at a time when eBay was at its kind of height of popularity, where people were not only selling the goods that they'd been given as like a dodgy Christmas present or something and they wanted to sell that on, but people were really starting to make businesses out of eBay. So we looked into that at the time. And, you know, this was, I think, possibly I was just 18, maybe a little bit older, something like that. And we discovered a few opportunities on eBay. We tried a couple of them, couple worked, couple didn't work. And we ended up finding these handbags that were imported handbags, and they were a really high quality leather handbag that people were buying, and because they were high quality, they were quite expensive handbags. And we ended up selling these handbags for quite a long period of time on eBay, as well as doing, you know, I think at the time I was working in insurance. My husband was working in catering. So it was the original side hustle back then at that time. And we just did that for a few years, and we were, you know, quite successful at it, in the sense that we were so, you know, successful. Like I said, I was maybe 18, 19, something like that. We were able to, it funded us to be able to buy our first home at quite a young age. So we were, you know, most of our friends were still living at home, whereas we bought our first property when we were younger. And once we did that, I mean, the market sort of died. It classic with most cases in, you know, when you're buying and selling products, the market becomes a little bit saturated. So we kind of left eBay behind and went through the next couple of years sort of with jobs and things like that. And then at exactly the same time, an opportunity came up for both myself and my husband to go self-employed. And I actually opened a beauty salon, and my husband opened his own restaurant at the time. And again, we were still I was in my early 20s at this point. So I actually ran a beauty salon, owned a beauty salon for probably about 4 years, something like that, which was challenging. Running a bunch of girls working together, lots of challenges, you know, and I'm talking younger girls, you know, sort of 16 coming out of school. So that was a really challenging period. And my husband was the same, and not with the beauty salon, but his restaurant. And so we did that. So that was our first real kind of, I suppose, journey into, you know, having our own businesses and that type of thing. And I actually had an opportunity to sell my salon, which I did a few years later, I think about 4 years later, something like that. And then I went back into employment. I went into recruitment, and my husband had his business, which he sold a few years later as well. And then he kind of said, after that, he was like, I was prepared to go back into employed work, but my husband wasn't. He was like, I'm out. I've tasted it. I'm done. I'm never going back now. And like, we've all had that, you know, at some point, but I was all right. I could flit in between the two. It wasn't really an issue for me. So I stayed in employment, and my husband started his own business, and then, which was distribution. And then after a few years, I kind of joined him on that. So we had a distribution company. I will get, you know, I'm talking over a period of, you know, sort of 20 years this has happened now. And we had the distribution company, and we specialized in very, very niche products with this distribution. They were eco products made from sustainable materials. And we supplied business to business and business to consumer as well with these type of products. And the business was very successful. It did really, really well until we had a product shortage issue where we couldn't get supplied. And we were supplying, you know, some of the biggest retailers in the UK, and some that took a long time to build relationships with. And almost overnight, because of this production delay of our products, we just couldn't get the products. And literally we had people that we'd been supplying for 2 years coming to us and saying, look, if you can't supply us, we're done. You know, it's over. You know, these people don't muck about. They're sort of like, it's like, oh, okay, don't worry. You know, whenever you get it, you know, the top end retailers, they don't mess around. So it was a real shock at that point. We were like, we both work for this company, as in our own company. And it took about 6 months to recover from this production delay. And my husband said to me, we can't be reliant on one income, you know, between us two, because I'd had children by this point as well. I had my first child at this point, and it was a really scary sort of time. And I was also doing trade shows and things like that, traveling around the country. And my husband said to me, I didn't want to do that anymore because I had a baby. You know, I had to leave my baby when he was 3 months old for a week. And I was like, why am I doing this? You know, this is ridiculous. I need something a bit more flexible for me. And so that's when Matt came to me. He's the source of all of our ideas, pretty much. He came to me and he came to me and said, I've heard about this thing. I've heard about this, you know, thing on Amazon, selling on Amazon. And I was like, selling on Amazon? I was like, no one sells on Amazon, Matt. You know, it's Amazon kind of thing. And he sort of went away, did a bit more research, come back. And I remember at the time it was a really hot summer. And Matt, and this was 6-7 years ago. Matt said to me, we had one of these kind of blow up hot tubs, inflatable hot tubs, you know, lazy, everyone's got them now. And we were having trouble getting hold of the filters for them. And we couldn't get hold of these filters. And, you know, Matt's pretty resourceful. He managed to find a supplier in the UK that had these filters. And this is when he come back to me and he said, I found these filters and, you know, I think I can get double the money for them, essentially. I was like, okay, good. Where are you going to sell them? And he was like, I was like, you're going to sell them on eBay? He's like, no, I'm going to sell them on eBay, but I'm also going to try on Amazon. And I'm like, oh, not this Amazon again. You know, it's ridiculous. Kind of forget the idea. But he put them on there and he put them on Amazon and he, you know, set up our Amazon account, did everything from that point of view, put them on there, put them on eBay at the same time. And not only did they sell on Amazon, they outsold eBay by about 6 or 8 times the volume that was selling on eBay. And at that moment was a bit like, okay, there's something here. You know, this looks like it could be pretty good. And then I think he just sort of discovered the Amazon arbitrage model. And, you know, we looked at the different options at the time. We were like, should we go private label? And I didn't feel it was like the right move for us at that point. And so we went down the arbitrage route. I don't even remember. I think he just found the content on YouTube or something like that. And we just literally started retail arbitrage. That's how we started with retail arbitrage. And we were going into shops. And I remember we were going into like places like Toys R Us that existed back then. And we were buying stuff that was on like 3 for 2. I remember our first buy, which was like some Thomas the Tank Engine sets. and we sent them into Amazon. I think we bought 6, something like that. Sent them into Amazon, and when they landed, they like literally sold out in 2 hours, and they had like £15 profit in each one. And we were like, right, okay. And that's where we kind of went from there, really. You know, I know that was a really long story in getting to that point, and then ever since then, obviously we've diversified into different income streams. We ran a prep center. So we had like a specialist kind of boutique prep center at the time. I run my Elite Sellers Academy now, which is where we obviously teach people how to scale their Amazon businesses and things like that, as well as selling now, because I don't even know if you know this, Seth, we've actually, you know, and come to the dark side. We have gone to private label now, and we are selling in the US. So,
nice. Well done.
You know, that's been something that we've been doing for a while now. And so, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's it's a rather long but very enjoyable nutshell.
Yeah.
But
sorry, guys, I know that probably took a bit too long. It's because I was saying beforehand. Yeah, it's because I was saying beforehand where I'm used to being in Seth's position where I kind of ask the questions. No one ever asks me questions. So when I get a chance, I'm like,
no, it's really cool because obviously there's so much to dig into there. Like I want to go straight from the start, because as you were telling me the eBay story, so you were on eBay when it was proper new and fresh, right? And then for some reason it popped into my head. Do you remember the first time I heard about eBay was that when there was an article in the newspaper which was like some guy started with a paperclip and ended up buying a house because he was just flipping stuff. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I don't know if I remember that exact story, but yeah, that's what was becoming sort of common time at the place. And eBay was really blowing up at the time, and we were selling on eBay before PayPal even, was a payment option on eBay. They used to send something called no checks. So if anyone who is below the age of probably 35 or 30, people used to sell something on eBay and you have to wait for someone to send you a physical check. Then you'd have to go and cash the check, wait for it to clear, and then you'd send the goods.
Wow, that's hilarious. Proper old school. But
yeah, proper old school.
It just really interests me that you're talking about the handbags and stuff. So well, firstly, it sounds like you and your husband are just proper kind of die-hard entrepreneurs, because you started when you were teenagers, right? Like I didn't start my first business until I was 26, and I didn't know I was going to until probably I was 25. So, like, do you think it helps that you two both wanted to do it together? Like, I know it's a terrible question to say if you hadn't have met, but do you think you would have you still would have set up businesses yourself if you hadn't have met, or did that you two knowing each other like spur you on to make it easier to do, kind of thing?
That is a great question, and one I've never been asked before. And honestly, I think meeting Matt and finding a partner in life who had the same kind of values and ambition definitely helped me. Matt is a natural entrepreneur. There's no doubt about it. So he's always had it in him. He'll tell me from stories when he was younger, where the school kind of careers person would say, what do you want to do for a living? And he would say, I want to run my own business. And they'd be like, doing what? And he would be like, I don't know, just run my own business. Whereas I've always been somebody that's done quite well in sort of employed roles as well. So I'm a little bit of I couldn't do it now. I've been out for too long now. I've definitely been out for too long. I've been fully out now for about 15 years. So I couldn't go back, but at the time I'm someone that was quite driven, target focused and things like that. So I'd always done well. So to answer your question, I don't know. From Matt's point of view, yes, but I think, yeah, probably without Matt's encouragement and support, because he was self-employed and has been out longer than me. I think possibly not, but who knows?
Yeah, because it always interests me, like what are people's, like, what's the catalyst towards people starting a business? What's the motivations? And what you said there is like super interesting. But and it's also interesting that you worked after you sold your company. So for me, as soon as I tasted the fruit of entrepreneurialism, there was no way I was going to go back once I was able to quit my job. But you were kind of in and out, as you say. Is that just because you're like really sociable, so you like having a job, or you don't mind having a boss, or it's just that sort of thing, is it?
That's exactly it. I'm a very sociable person, so I have a very wide network of friends and people that I work with, that I socialise with on a regular basis. And for me, I tend to go through probably up to about a 4-year cycle where I want to, be in a very customer driven, customer facing business where I'm dealing with customers all the time, talking to people, resolving people's issues, that type of thing. And I think, but then it does always come to a point, and it did with the salon, having the salon was definitely the most challenging business that we've ever had, purely because it's reliant on so many things. If you think about the type of businesses that we run now, yes, we're very reliant on Amazon, but we're not reliant on driving traffic to Amazon, because Amazon does that. We're selling on someone else's platform, whereas having the salon involved every single part of running a business. Not only did I have to run staff, I had to order product. I had to make sure that we were stocked up. We had to make sure that we had the goods to supply to the customers. We had to facilitate the customers coming in. You have to make sure you got the right type of insurance. You have to make sure it's, following it's clean and tidy and all these different types of things. And then on top of that, you've got to run all the advertising of the business. You've got to make sure customers are coming in because you're paying your staff. And then all of a sudden you get 3 of your staff call in sick on one day and you've got a full day of bookings for people. It was a very challenging role, challenging business to run because it was reliant so much on other people. And that's the part that I really needed a break from at the end of it. I just wanted to go into a position and be not a point and do, because I've never been a point and do person, but I just wanted a period of time where people were not relying on me as such. So it was like I go through this kind of cycle, and I was just sick of dealing with customers at that point. I was like, I don't want to deal with any more customers for a while. So that was the reason why. But yeah, I think most people would be like, sell a business and then go back into employed work. But at that point in my time, and I was still probably I was still 24, 25 at that time. So, going back and what's great, the job that I went into at that time, even though I left that job 15 years ago, 12 years ago, I left that job. When are we now? I'm 40. I don't know, whenever it was. Because of COVID, we've all lost 2 years, and I keep forgetting.
True.
I think I'm younger than I am. But yeah, so leaving that job it was 14, 15 years ago, something like that. And what's lovely is I'm still in contact with all the people that I used to work with, because I do enjoy the social element of that type of thing. And that's definitely one thing, working on your own, that is one of the most challenging things when you are a social person. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, running an Amazon business, even if you've got a whole team of virtual assistants, they might all be in the Philippines. You don't necessarily speak to anyone other than over Zoom, right? So I guess that, yeah. And like you said, it was recruitment, right? So that I assume that's a very sociable environment anyway, because I know a few people in recruitment. So
it is, definitely. You're always going to see clients, you're meeting candidates, you're meeting people that, you're trying to put into job positions. And it was very enjoyable, and I really loved it. I mean, I know people, have some bad things to say about recruitment, but I think if you're successful in it and you can do well in it, it's a really enjoyable job, definitely. I really enjoyed my time in it.
Yeah, I can imagine it's the sort of thing that if you're good at something, you generally enjoy it. But it's quite funny how you're like, you ran this beauty salon. It's almost like you did recruitment as like a rest. That was almost your time off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do something a little bit easier. But
yeah. Exactly. And if anybody knows recruitment sales, it's considered to be one of the hardest, type of sales jobs there is.
Yeah, because you're dealing with humans, right? And humans are the most unpredictable, difficult people which is making me want to question the beauty salon a bit more. Because like you said, when you first introduced the story, was that I assume you hired lots of kind of young ladies, right? And they're potentially going to take. I assume, I don't know, I could be wrong. They might take more sick days than others, and like you say, you'd have to fill a load of appointments, and you haven't got any staff and stuff like that. So, would you say that was the biggest challenge of the beauty salon, or was it the advertising and getting customers
definitely. The customers, I mean, at the time, again, I think after when we opened the salon, there seemed to be like 10 other salons that popped up around the same sort of time. So we were always really fortunate, and we did really well for our position. We were in a good position. We were always busy, never having an issue. But running a team of younger people, and even though I wasn't, over the hill at that point, but I've always had an older head on my shoulders anyway. And that was definitely challenging, 18-year-olds who have to work on a Saturday, but they're out on a Friday night, and that they're going to call in sick because they spend the whole day talking about how they're going out on the Friday to all their clients. Oh, I'm going into Bournemouth tonight. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm sat there thinking, on my computer, I'm thinking they're not coming in tomorrow. And, so that was definitely, you're absolutely right. People are the most challenging, running staff is one of the most challenging things, I think, in any business.
But they're also the thing that's going to get you the best ROI, right? Because they're kind of infinitely scalable in their skill, right? Because they can keep getting better, whereas a software can't. Well, it could get better, but there's limits, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing about that business, and like I said, I've talked about all the negatives of that business, and it's probably not like me a little bit, because there were some fantastic positives in the business. It was very sociable. It was a great place to work. There was always a fantastic environment, and I think that contributed to the reason why people used to come back. You were reliant on people, booking an appointment every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks or something like that. And in that industry, if that people are not coming back on a regular basis, that, there's something probably not right in the environment or the people that you've hired or things like that. So that side of it, was absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And we did a lot of things like, shows and, going up to the big trade shows and advertising and all that type of thing. And that was the really good side of it. That was the fun side of it, definitely.
Nice. Yeah. So you said that like 10 other cropped up at the same time. Were you, so one question would be like, were you one of the first? And secondly, like, what do you think separated your business out? Was it the fact that your customer service was so good, or was your pricing better? I don't really know how it works, but I'm always interested because, for example, in the town where my parents live, I just noticed there's like 20 different barbers, and it's like there can only be a couple of them that are doing well, right? And I feel like it's that like Pareto principle, isn't it? It's like a power law. It's like only one or two are going to be doing really well, and the rest aren't doing that well. And I don't know what would possess you to open up that 20th barbershop, but yeah, sorry, a bit of a tangent there, but
no, you're absolutely right, and that's a question when we saw them popping up. So we were on a really long road in between Poole and Bournemouth, and it's almost one of the main roads that you drive along to get from Poole to Bournemouth. And so, I mean, really, really long road, and systematically they all popped up. So to answer your question, we were not the first, but we certainly weren't the last. So, of the 10, just say that popped up, we were probably like number 3, something like that. So there was one down the other end. And believe me, if you knew this road, you could have one at one end, one down the other end, and it wouldn't cause you any issues. But yeah, they all kind of systematically popped up. How we kind of positioned ourselves, and I think this is something that's applicable to anything in life, in business, is we looked at the market and we went higher end in terms of the products that we supplied. We went there was 2 sides of the business. So we had the beauty side of the business and we had the nail side of the business. And we also rented out some chairs to hairdressers and things like that. And we went down the very natural route in terms of products that we were using, higher end spa type products. But also at the time, this was at the time of the rise of the acrylic nail. And so people were literally quite conscious about you know, there were some really bad stories about, you know, really dodgy products being put onto nails. And yeah, if you were around at the time, you would know. And people using electric files and things like that wasn't good for the nail. So we kind of positioned ourselves as, we don't do that. We've gone for the best product. So we used the best nail products. They didn't have any of the banned products that you would get from America, because people were importing them, which these nails, when you put them on, they stayed on forever. Like literally, they wouldn't break or anything like that. But the reason they wouldn't break is because they had so much like bad stuff and banned ingredient in them. So that's how we differentiated ourselves. And we made that clear in all of our advertising, that we don't use these type of products. We use this, and you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but it's better for you in the long run.
Nice. Yeah, that's really interesting. So it's almost like you were on the like sustainability vibe, and that really benefited, which surprised me a bit, just because I thought like nails are, I don't actually know, maybe that is cool that was a differentiator for you.
I think that's what it comes down to in a lot of the businesses that we've run over the years, or businesses, you know, or plans for the future. One of the things that we always ask ourselves, and this is me, you know, the direction that I like to kind of go down when we're thinking about getting into something new or trying something new or anything like that, especially if it's got a customer feel to it. You have to think about, you know, what your customer is, who they are, who's going to buy the product, what's in it for them, why is it important to them, how are they going to use the product, how is that product going to change their life, is there any pain points to that product. Then on top of that, you have to think about who's going to buy the product. So is it the person that buys the product? Are they going to use it themselves? Are they buying and using it for themselves? If so, you have to market it in one way. Whereas if you are selling something more on the gift route, that it's being bought by another person, your marketing has to target the other person that's going to be buying it, as opposed to the recipient of the gift. You know, what level of financial sort of buy level? Is it the lower end of the market, the medium, or the higher end of the market? Is it an instant buy decision? You know, all of these different types of areas. And I literally will go through any new product we're launching or anything that we're looking at for the future. That's like a whole journey that I will go through and really dive deep on, and understanding, trying to build almost like an avatar of what the client or the customer is going to be, understand what they want, and then try and facilitate that.
Nice. Yeah. So you're taking a very like granular view, trying to put yourself in the eyes of the customer, which a quick question just popped into my head was like, if there's anyone from the US listening, or I don't know if people who went to better schools than I did, but I don't know about you, but they do not teach any of this to you at school.
No.
Or probably at university, even if you do a business degree. So my question to you would be, like, was this kind of common sense for you and your husband, or did you just learn this along the way, or were there any like books you read, or did you have any mentors or anything like that for you to kind of have this really like smart business head on your shoulders?
Again, great question. It's something we just kind of learned along the way. We were really fortunate earlier on to work with a couple of people in our distribution company that had built some phenomenal brands, and we really took the opportunity to learn from the people that built these brands and how they did it. And one was an American brand, which again, I don't know if you were what you were alluding to, whereas here in the UK, whereas America's a very entrepreneurial place, they have a very different kind of attitude to things that we do here. Whereas it's, I think, I don't know if it's to do with like the American dream or not, where, like you say, that stuff tends to be taught a little bit more than it is over here. So we picked up a lot on that, and you know, it's just stuff that we picked up along the way. Of course, you know, the classic mentors and people to follow, you know, like Tony Robbins and people like that. So we've listened all throughout our lives to people like that. Bob Proctor, who unfortunately passed away I think it was last week or something. So just listening, Jim Rohn, listening to those type of people with that kind of philosophy, and just understanding, trying to understand the customer. I think that's one of the things that I've really, really tried to discuss, dive deep into over the years, and consider it to have a good understanding. But again, it's always something, always constantly learning, always, trying to discover new things, try new things, of course, and, seeing what you can uncover along the way.
Yeah, as soon as you think you know everything, you're screwed.
You're
I
done.
think. Yeah, you're done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every day we're always learning something new. I'll tell you what we are doing at the moment, actually, which I'm really excited about, but I just feel, whenever I say it, I feel like I sound really old when I say it. So we're just looking into TikTok at the moment as an advertising source, because we have a couple of products that would lend very well to TikTok advertising. But I feel like I'm too old to do TikTok advertising. I feel like I'm kind of over the hill in that respect.
No.
It's such a fun platform, and the trouble is I've ended up like doing research and trying to find out stuff about it and things like that. But then I end up losing myself, like I lose an hour because I end up watching all this stuff. It's so addictive, and I can see so that's a new learning curve for us at the moment, is TikTok, and I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, as you say, it's tough to separate yourself from creating to consuming. I never realised I enjoyed watching random people doing dance moves until TikTok. But I don't really use it. Yeah, but I think I probably will use it for conversations such as this, and like repurposing clips and then putting that up. It seems to be a very useful medium. Do you think it's gonna overtake other social media platforms? Like, what do you think the future of TikTok is?
I think TikTok's going to be the one. I think it's everything that we are or have moved into society today. I think people want things condensed. I think people want things quick. They want I think people have got such a short kind of attention span now, essentially, because like my kids, my son is 11, and if I say to him, like, shall we sit down and watch a movie? He's like, how long's the movie? And I'm like, well, like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Oh, he's like, oh, that's so long. Whereas he's growing up in a world where he's used to watching 5-minute videos, and now TikTok, I think the maximum length's like 60 seconds or something like that. So he's, that's the generation now that's coming up that really does have this kind of shorter attention span, attention to detail. And I think with the way that TikTok's set up, and we're so attached to our phones, it's just perfectly set up for that. So I think there's a couple of years while TikTok is still building its stores. They've just announced stores a couple of weeks ago. They've got the advertising, which is, still relatively cheap compared to the other socials in terms of, Facebook, Amazon, PPC, Instagram, all of these other types of social media platforms. So it's still in its infancy at the moment. Although TikTok's been around for a long time, they're going through their monetization phase. And whilst they're going through that, it brings a really great opportunity for people to explore it and get in the start a little bit. And I still consider this to be the start for TikTok.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I also think there's a weird paradox where, you've got the content that's being consumed more is getting shorter, but also podcasts are growing massively too. So it's almost like the longer form content's doing well, the much shorter, and then everything in between is not doing as well, right? So that may be why Instagram gets pushed out, or Facebook maybe. I don't know. I'm just completely speculating.
No, I can see. Do you know what? I've never got Instagram. I'm a Facebook person, so everything we do is on Facebook. We're not on Instagram. But it's almost like we're going to go from, like, my kids, if I talk, my friends' kids have got like teenage kids, they're not on Facebook. They're not interested in Facebook. They're only interested in Instagram and TikTok. Whereas we're going to kind of, I think, skip Instagram and kind of go straight to TikTok. But I think TikTok, I think you're absolutely right. I think if one of them is going to get squeezed out, I think it could be Instagram. I don't know, because Twitter's had a big comeback as well. Lots of people, I think, in the crypto kind of NFT space use Twitter a lot, and of course you've all got the other growing social media platform, which is Discord. That's really, really popular at the moment as well, and that is very early stages of Discord, and I'm sure there will be a level of monetization opportunities available with that one as well. So yeah, it's interesting what you say. I mean, thank God for podcasts. I wouldn't last sort of 2 minutes on anything else, because I struggle to, do a short answer on anything.
No, it's great. But yeah, I would guess podcasts are a slightly different medium in the sense that you don't necessarily, you can listen to a podcast while you're doing the cleaning, or you're driving on the way to work, whatever, whereas you can't watch a YouTube video and drive unless you're a crazy person. Mm-hmm. But
exactly. And I think nowadays people are becoming more aware of maximising their time as much as possible. So, whereas somebody, especially if you are business-minded, starting your own business, or maybe you're doing it as a little bit of a side hustle and you're running a business, then you have to really know how to maximise your time management. So it's things like we do the school run every day. It's 30 minutes of dead time, essentially. So that's the opportunity when I'll listen to something informative, or I'll do something, I'll listen to something on my headphones and listen to like either a podcast or a YouTube video or something like that. Because otherwise it's just dead time. Whereas you see everyone else walking back, and you try and maximize your time as much as possible. So, information like this is never been a better way for information to be delivered and to be consumed.
Speaking of maximising time, I'd be really interested to know what, it seems like you like to be busy, and you say you like to maximise time, and you're very productive, you're doing lots of different things. Like, how do you juggle, being a parent, having to deal with all of that sort of stuff alongside, your Amazon business, and you're also doing your Facebook Sellers Academy stuff. So do you have any tips, or what works for you in terms of, do you schedule your day and stuff like that?
Well, yes, I do schedule my day. So it's quite a funny story, actually, because I went through a period of time where I was trying all of these different schedulers. I was trying Monday. I was trying, ClickUp. I was trying, I just went through, all these fancy kind of software schedulers and things like that, and I went kind of full circle, and I've realized for me, I'm not a technophobe or anything like that, but technology is not my forte, as it were. So I went full circle, and I ended up going back to doing what really works for me, because sometimes I think we try and fix stuff that's not an issue, and I was thinking, if you're this business person, you shouldn't be scheduling your stuff in a physical diary. It should be something where it's all digitalized or something like that. But it just didn't work for me. So how I schedule my day is through a physical diary. So it's a planner. I use something called Action Planner. It's you can get it on Amazon. It's broken down into almost time blocking sections, and I use that and a combination of Google Calendar, and that's essentially how I do it. And I time block my day, so everything's blocked into sections. I never do one thing for too long. I do have the ability to be able to do one task and then move into doing something else. But I don't overload myself with stuff. And I get asked this a lot, how do you do kids and do this and do that and whatever? It's because I've learned now to not overload myself with anything. I rarely will put anything more than 3 to 5 tasks to be done every single day. And I find that as long as you're doing things consistently and you're doing them regularly, that's, you can keep everything under control. So, that's kind of the way to do it. But for us, our kids come first. It's as simple as that. So we want to make sure we continue to be in a position that we can go to every school play, we can go to every sports day. I physically, we take and pick up our children every day. They don't go into any type of, school care or anything like that. It's something that, and that was the big shock when I had my son and having to leave him at 3 months to go off and do a trade show. We actually did I think it was the spring fair at the time, and I was away for 6 nights when he was 3 months old, and it was just awful. And I just never wanted to be in that position again. It's not the reason we had kids. So everything we do is structured around the children. Essentially, as they get older, they need us less, and it enables us to do more. So it's like my son's 11 now, and he's like, I'm like, hey, do you want to go and do this? And he's like, no, I'm talking to my friends. And I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, we always want to make sure we're there for the kids so that they come first more than anything else.
No, that's great answer and great advice. I obviously don't have kids, but I'm hoping that will be my attitude also. But so was that one of the big kind of draws that pulled you into Amazon, was that you thought, because a lot of it's outsourced, send everything into an Amazon warehouse and they can do a lot of the work for you? Is that what you were thinking about when you got into Amazon, or was it just kind of was that like, would you say that was the main thing? Well,
it just blew my mind when I discovered what you could do with Amazon, because we'd had the distribution business, which we completely facilitated ourselves, and we had a warehouse, and we were doing all the stock inventory, the management, the sending. We were sending trade orders, as well as we had business to consumer business as well with it. And, there were some days where the staff were coming in and, especially if we had like a big advertising thing that would come off, and we won a couple of awards, and when we won the awards, it brings a lot of traffic to the website, and we actually got featured on TV a couple of times. And I remember when like I said, social media, advertising, everything's phenomenal, but I've never experienced the power of anything like television advertising. That was absolutely phenomenal. We sold 1,500 units in a day of our product, and wow. It was mental. So, but then you have these moments where we were literally like packing at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so when I saw the power of Amazon, not only that, combined that they would handle your goods, your customer service, the back end of the sale, it just sounded phenomenal after coming off the back of being in charge of your own kind of inventory. And yeah, it was like, whoa, this actually happens. And yeah, so it was a big attraction, no doubt about it, for sure.
I'm thinking, because you've ran so many businesses between the two of you before that, like, what was Amazon like actually quite easy or quite simple? Like, what were the main challenges that you found for Amazon when you first started out?
Well, when we first started doing arbitrage, and again, I don't want this to sound like back in the good old days. It was very different to how it is now. And like I said, I don't want this to come with any connotation of it was better then or it's better now. Things are better or worse at different points for different reasons. And as I say this, as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was different then to as it is now. In the same vein, it will be different 5, 6, 7 years from now than it is now. So, one of the things about Amazon is you always have to adapt, you always have to evolve. But 5, 6 years ago on Amazon really was a different beast, in the sense that you don't have a lot of the issues that you have now. You had things like ungating and stuff like that, but most categories were open, so you could sell pretty much wherever you want. It was very rare on the kind of IP side of things. If Amazon lost a box, they paid you for it. No questions asked. They would just pay you for it. And it was, quite a good percentage. A lot of the time you'd kind of, hope your box would maybe go missing because Amazon would just pay you for it. No questions asked. And there wasn't the level of saturation in certain areas on the arbitrage side of things that there is now. There's always been saturation. I'm not saying that there wasn't, but I suppose there was less avenues for people to get access to deals, essentially, because when we first started out, it was all manual. You know, there was no softwares or anything like that. Sorry, tell a lie. There was tactical arbitrages around, but I never got on with that. I didn't really learn how to utilize it properly. So I've always been a manual sourcer. And there was one called FBA Wizard that was pretty good, and it was good at the time. But what it was really good for was, you know, going onto a site like Tesco's or Toys R Us and scanning it and, you know, kind of getting the deals. But those were the ones that tend to get saturated because that was the easier end of doing it, or, you know, had a lower barrier to entry, essentially. But you know, maybe I do look back on that time I'm trying to think, was there any major issues? I try to look back on at that time. And do you know what? I think the biggest issues were things like having to get up at 2:00 in the morning to do like the Argos 3 for 2 sales at the time, and making sure that you spent sort of 5-6 grand or something like that before anyone else got the stock. So, but it was, looking back, it was quite fun. It was a fun business. And I think that's one of the things that we had straight away, because everything was done for us. Amazon were handling all of the dispatch. Amazon were responsible for driving traffic to the site. We didn't have to worry about that. We just literally had to find the products, send them in, and sell them. So it was quite fun in that respect.
Yeah, no, I always enjoyed the RA when I was doing it, and for the short period I did do it. Yeah, you go out shopping. Yeah, exactly. You can't complain. So were you doing solely RA? When did you go on to OA? I don't know what your trajectory after the RA was.
We did about probably 80% RA to start with. So it was predominantly RA. Then we moved into, I don't know if there was ever a time where we did completely online arbitrage and no RA. I think it almost flipped over because, again, that realization came in and it was like, okay, actually, I can just sit at home and do this. I don't have to go out and do it. So that's, you know, and at the time it was the RA model that was pushed a lot more than the online side of things. So that's really, but we did end up flipping it up, and we were doing more sort of the OA side of things for a couple of years. But again, it's kind of difficult to say this. When we did pure OA, we only really sold toys. We didn't sell a lot of anything else, because you could literally, you could run a great account just on toys, because there were no declaration of conformities. You know, there was no issues with selling toys. Oh, can I sell anything to under 13-year-olds and this, and safety documents and all on you know, some of the challenges that people have nowadays with that subject, with that category of selling on Amazon. And we actually sold a really niche area of toys as well. We used to specialize more in dolls and Disney. You know, we were one of the first people that really started selling Disney heavily on arbitrage, and that was at a time when no one else was doing it. It was like, you know, a few other sellers that were doing it. So, you know, you think of the rate of those type of products and how that they sell and the price that they were selling at. And of course, EFM was around then as well, before the prices went up, and then before we lost it to Brexit. So, you know, Germany was a big part of our business at the time as well. So I can't remember what the question was now.
Oh, it doesn't matter. That's perfect. No, I'm interested just because you're mentioning. So I think I was just asking about when you went to OA, but it was mainly RA than OA. But
yeah, and then I was going to say, and then what happened was I actually had a life-changing event happen, and or a sad event happened in I lost my dad, and this is what I always say to people. So I always like to share this story as a warning to other people, because we had that business, and we were doing purely vanilla arbitrage, so, you know, straight kind of arbitrage. And my dad died, and it was not unexpected, but you know when it's not unexpected but no one expects it kind of thing. And it was a really tough period of time in our life, but I was still doing all the sourcing. I was doing all the manual sourcing. I was doing all the side of it. And then when my dad passed away, there was so much to deal with after my dad passed away. And before I knew it, 1 month slipped into 3 months, and 3 months slipped into 6 months. And we had a very reasonable size Amazon arbitrage business, and it kind of eked its way out. But it ended up being, I didn't do anything on the Amazon side of things for, 12 to 18 months, and took a break out of it after dealing with, my dad passing away and everything that came with that as well. And that's because I made the mistake of not outsourcing the business. Amazon arbitrage is the perfect business to outsource, if you find a good area of doing it. And I didn't do that, and it bit me in the bum. Big time, essentially, because I could have very much continued the business on as it was during that difficult period of my time, with not much effort from my point of view, but I hadn't done it before. It was always in my mind to do it, but I never got round to it. And essentially, that 18 months out, when we went back into the arbitrage side of it, it changed. It changed quite a lot. And so at that point, I was like, okay, let's have a look and see what different opportunities there are relating to Amazon, because I'd never lost faith in Amazon, essentially. Amazon is phenomenal, and the arbitrage model is phenomenal. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying it's not. It had just changed, and I'd kind of not moved along with it. So I wanted to try something a bit different. And that's when I came across like the bundling side of things, identifying opportunities. And that was my sort of first step into creating my own products. And I'd never considered myself to be a creative person until I'd gone down that route. And I actually really discovered all these things inside myself whilst trying to restart the arbitrage business. And it was a little bit like trying to flog a dead horse, because I'd been exposed to something else that I was really enjoying, but sexy arbitrage was pulling me back in, with the, hey, you can sell a Barbie doll and you can flip it and you can do this. And I was sort of half in and half out for a period of time. And then it was only really again, forgetting with the COVID thing, I think it was the Christmas before COVID, was the last kind of arbitrage Christmas we had, and then we made the decision that we would come out of straight reselling of arbitrage, concentrate on the bundle side of things, end up creating our own products and going down that route. And that's kind of the best thing that we did, because yes, we were cutting off a source of income, but it enabled us to focus on the creative side and the thing that I was enjoying a lot more, which was exploring and discovering the customer route and what works for them. And that's how I was able to, really dive deep into that customer and sales psychology side of it, which is something I really enjoy and just like dive into really deeply.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. And obviously, sorry to hear about your father.
Sorry.
No.
So yeah, guys, I was just going to say, if you are in arbitrage, don't make the same mistake as I did. Outsource it, as much as you possibly can, because we all have these unexpected events that happen in our life, and you never know how you're going to react. I've been in a position where I've had friends that have lost parents, and, they bounce back straight away. You just don't know how something's going to, impact you.
Yeah, totally. It reminds me of this book that I've got here. I don't know if you've read it. Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. And
love Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I love him as well. Amazing actor, and he's also a very good writer, and the book's incredible. I'd highly recommend reading it. But he talks about, like, the main takeaway I had was that when you're doing really well, so whether it's, you're in your personal life or your business, you're making a lot of money, you're running downhill essentially, and you're hitting those green lights. So while you're hitting those green lights, don't get complacent, which is something that I've totally done. Like, I totally concur with what you said, in the sense that it took me way too long to hire my first VA, and I don't know, you don't know when life's going to get in the way, like you've said there, and then you're potentially left in a position which you could have easily not been in, right? And Yeah, outsourcing is just what you should be doing, right?
Oh, absolutely. And do you know what? There's still lessons that I haven't learned from that, because I still do my own sourcing now for our creative products, but you don't buy as many products as you do when you're creating your own products. So there's not as much sourcing capabilities. And I think the reason why we're kind of quite good at it is because I am involved at that level, and you know, my understanding. I don't think that's something I would ever massively outsource anywhere. I know some people do, people in the Elite Sellers Academy, you know, they do get VAs in to source bundle opportunities for them and things like that as well. But it's something that I still enjoy it. And the trouble is, and I don't know if this has ever come up with you, Seth, is I was told years ago that you should outsource everything, even if you enjoy it or not. And I've never been able to get on board with that, because I think I understand why they say it, you know, standard operating procedures. And like I said, I was a bit on the bum with it big time. But still part of me thinks, come on, there's got to be a bit of enjoyment what I'm doing. And I really enjoy that side of it. So I don't want to let it go. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic, and I think it's really difficult as well, because I thought I enjoyed buying books, and I loved buying books for like 3 years, but then as soon as I offloaded it, I realised that I can't do this anymore, because it's not. I don't actually like it. So I don't mind it. Like, I still like sourcing, but I could not possibly buy 50 books a day. Like, I'd be sick of that, right? So it's almost like sometimes I think we convince ourselves that we do like something, but if you genuinely do enjoy it, right, you get up in the morning like, oh, sweet, I want to do my bundle stuff, then I think that's absolutely fine. I think, but you've just got to really be mindful of whether you're trying to trick, like we can trick ourselves so easily, right? And I guess it depends on like the ROI you're getting from the task, right? So if it is genuinely a kind of a low level skill, because like buying books, once you teach the formula, I don't need to be doing it because I'm not special, right? You can teach it. So
you
it
are
depends.
Special.
It depends how unique, I guess, the task is, I think. But it's something that could, I think there's a lot of depth to it, right? Like you say. Yeah,
and even so now, and again, we're going through a period of transition now with our physical products as well, because, you know, we've done bundles now for, you know, probably 3 years, something like that. And even now been exposed to something else now, and it's not a constant thing of, you know, oh, be exposed to this, but it's about evolving and identifying what works for you, your areas of strength. And, you know, at a point in your life where there is a lot going on, okay, so now we've been exposed to something else, and I'm sort of like thinking, oh, okay, this is really interesting, which is the private label side of things. So I'm a firm believer in that you have to recognize opportunity when it comes along. And we were given the opportunity to partner with someone, with an inventor who'd created a product and had no idea how to sell on Amazon, wasn't interested in selling on Amazon at all. So came to us through a mutual friend and sort of said, oh, I understand you guys know how to sell on Amazon. Would you be interested in looking at this product? You know, seeing if you want to either take it on or, you know, can we work together? And whatever. And we saw the product and we were blown away by it. And it, you know, it absolutely, after a minimal level of research, I could see that there was a real need for this type of product. And it was a very innovative product as well. And, but it was a product that suited the American market really well, as opposed to the UK market. So we actually took this product on. It was already selling in America, but through its like own website and a couple of things. And there was already stock in America and that type of thing. So it was quite easy to launch on the American platform. And even though we create all of our own products now anyway, we've got this brand as well. And we sort of like, you look at that and there's 3 products in the product range at the moment in the brand, and it'll probably go up to about 10 over the next 18 months. And that's it. And managing 10 products is a lot easier than managing, you know, 50 products or 100 products or whatever. So you sort of look at each stage and you think, okay, well, I probably want a little bit more of that. It fits our lifestyle a bit better. So I think for the first time ever, we are going to go down the route of, you know, creating a product from scratch, because I don't take any credit for the creation side of the product. You know, as I said, it was an inventor that invented the product. It's their product that we, you know, have partnered with in terms of the Amazon side of things. So we weren't involved at the creative level, which is the next step that I would like to try, because, and I think one of the reasons I spoke to you about doing the podcast is Amazon is changing in the way that it views products and how they want those products to be represented on Amazon, and brand focus is a really, really big part of that. And nowadays, people do not understand the opportunity, I think, that is available to really create your own brand. It's crazy when you think about it, that nowadays you or I could create a brand that could compete with, you know, like Nike or something like that. You know, it's the possibility is there, and you could do it from your own home, essentially. And I remember watching this video with Gary Vee a couple of years ago in COVID, and he was talking about this, the rise of the, you know, solopreneur, I suppose, of solo brandpreneur, that people get this, you know, you really, the time is now, and you have this opportunity. And with all these kind of aggregators that are coming in and buying up people's Amazon brands for 7 and 8 figures, and, you know, you sort of look at that and you think, wow, the opportunity that's out there to be able to do that is phenomenal. There's no other platform in the world that I think gives people the start of opportunity to do that. So what we, for the first time ever in our lives, we are going to be starting a, you know, and creating a product, a brand, essentially, with the long-term goal that we will sell that brand at a later stage. We've never done that before. We've sold businesses in the past, but we've not started a business with the end goal of the purpose of selling that business. So it'll be an interesting kind of journey to follow and see what happens along the place. So, you know, success isn't guaranteed, of course, but I think it would be like an interesting journey to follow, essentially.
No, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to be following along. I'll be intrigued to see how it goes, because obviously at some point I would like to do private label. You know, look, exactly what you said. It's a bit easier to manage 10 SKUs than 6,000 SKUs, which is what I'm currently on.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's obviously it's totally different issues and challenges, right? Because it's like being able to sell it. It's obviously much more scalable, and then I guess there's the risk of the product just bombing, and you've got to do more marketing and stuff. But it's interesting you mentioned Nike, because I don't know if you've read his the guy Phil Knight's book, but it's just super like interesting how his business model was. He went over to Japan, couldn't speak any Japanese, found a manufacturer, and just like went in there with no Japanese and just said, look, can I place an order with you? Can I sell on the West Coast or whatever? And like times have changed so much, and like you say, the opportunity is crazy. Like you don't need to do any of that now. You can email someone in Japan and ask them to send you a batch of whatever it is you want to sell. And so, but with that, I'd like to ask you, so you've done RA, you've done a little bit of OA, you've done bundles, a little bit of wholesale, you're now doing private label. If you were to start all over again, maybe you just had £500, maybe £1,000, maybe a little bit more, we can do a bit of leeway on that. What would you do? What would you advise people do? Would it be RA? Would it be OA?
Yeah, Amazon arbitrage all day long. It really is a phenomenal business. I don't want to call it a stepping stone business, because I don't want to detract from the people who have phenomenal arbitrage business that they've outsourced, and, you know, they sit on a beach or whatever and do this and do that. I don't want to detract from that by calling it a stepping stone business, but I like to call it as an exposure business. So it's perfect business for somebody who has never run a business before, who's thinking about getting into business, because it really does show you. And I think out of all the selling models on Amazon, I think arbitrage is the one that has the most factors to it, essentially, and it exposes you to how Amazon is, how they operate, how to run your account, what to do, what not to do, how to prep goods, how to send them in. I think it's the one business on Amazon that really gets you involved at a certain level, that gives you the best chance to build your knowledge on Amazon. And that's a really scalable business. And if you're not someone interested in creation of your own products or marketing of your own products, or learning how to, advertise products, and, do I increase that bid by 2p, and should I remove that word? And, is my word got, is it in the right place in the listing? All of those, sort of really kind of minute details. If you are just interested in reselling, I think it's still a phenomenal model. Yeah, it's going to change over the next few years, but it's exactly what I said a little while ago. It's not the same as it was 5 years ago, and it's not the same as it will be 5 years from now. As long as you adapt and you change along the way, arbitrage is arbitrage. It will never die. Reselling and flipping at its core, which is what arbitrage is. You buy something low and you sell it for more. That will never die. It's like the oldest form of transaction there is. So yeah, I think it's the best model to get into. See how you respond to Amazon, see how you work, because we all have those moments, don't we, when you first start selling on Amazon, where you're like, this isn't fair. How can they do that? It kind of acclimatizes you to the Amazon way. So 100% arbitrage. That is the route I would advise anyone to go down as the first stepping stone into business.
Yeah, great advice. I totally agree. And obviously there's nothing stopping you from starting an Amazon arbitrage business, and then further down the line, when you've got a bit more cash flow, you can do the private label thing.
I wouldn't encourage anybody to get into private label until they've been doing, sort of Amazon for a minimum of a year, of understanding, what Amazon want, how they operate, and things like that. And like I said, 6-7 years down the line, this is, still, going to be some of our first kind of exposures to that. I appreciate not everybody, moves at that pace, and people do want to try things differently. But I think that the more information you have, the more risk I can take out of things, the more I can mitigate the risk, the more comfortable I will be going into, into different areas. Nice.
Yeah. On the topic of private label, I just wanted to go back to when you talked about your imported handbags on eBay. I'm surprised because you did that you weren't more that you weren't more like susceptible to go into private label and do something like that, because you'd done it before. Like, did you think about it, or what was the process there?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd imported from China. That's what our distribution company had as well. So there was no reasons why we couldn't do that. For me at the time, the reason why we didn't go into the distribution, because when we first started on Amazon, and probably for the next couple of years after that, it was the rise and the fall of the Me Too product. So these were the people that would kind of, advertise a very high priced course, and they would teach you to sell a potato peeler kind of thing. There was no creativity involved. There was no, I could go on and see, right, okay, well, why would they buy that potato peeler instead of the 16 others that filled the first 16 slots on the front page of Amazon? Why? There was no differentiation between that. And it was only when the rise of the brand came in on the Amazon side of things, they introduced something called the Amazon brand name policy a few years ago. And that really paved the way and started this kind of journey that Amazon's going on at the moment of, brand is key. They want everything to be branded. They want everything to have its place on Amazon, because Amazon, what they've really done and what they're trying to do, and COVID really held them back over the last 18 months. People think Amazon grew massively over the last 18 months. They did, but they didn't grow in the way that they thought that they were going to grow. They didn't innovate in the way that they thought that they were going to innovate over the COVID period, because they were just sending everyone their toilet rolls. But they had all these kind of plans put into place to take Amazon in a certain direction on the branding side of things. I don't know if you've seen it. They've got something called Amazon Live now, where people can essentially sell live through live. It's a bit like QVC on steroids, and it's all through the influencer network. They want a piece of the influencer network. They want to tap into that. It was literally announced yesterday that Amazon is allowing brands now to email the customers. So you'll be able to send out email direct to your Amazon customers, something you've never been able to do before. So all of these, all the areas that they wanted to innovate within their drone deliveries and, they were unable to do that. So Amazon's really kind of catching up on that now. And it's a really exciting time to be able to, if you're into that creative side of things, the introduction of the A+ content, the video advertising, everything like that, it's so much more interesting than a potato peeler, which is what the option was at the time then.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, as you say, there's so much opportunity. When you're mentioning the emails, that's crazy, right? So you can essentially have a massive email list, and you don't even need to create it. Like Amazon does it for you, and you've got that asset.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's in beta at the moment. So the beta was announced yesterday, and it is, you can email, I assume, an Amazon targeted selection, or people that have either bought your product. It's for brand registry only. So you have to be a brand on Amazon. You have to have brand registry. But yeah, it's phenomenal because, even nowadays, direct marketing is something that still works phenomenally well. And the thing, again, until it's possibly changed in the future, there's still a massive percentage of people around that still don't realize they're buying from anyone other than Amazon. So if you get an Amazon email dropping in your inbox saying, buy this, you already bought into Amazon's trust. There's so much leverage there. You're going to buy it, because it's Amazon at the end of the day, largest retailer in the world. Why wouldn't you buy it? So it's adding extra weight to something that's already, a successful way of marketing anyway as well. So it's going to be really powerful, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds super powerful. It's making me want to get into private label and brands. but before we touch on that a little bit more, we've talked about saturation a bit, and I know it's always a hot topic, isn't it? It's like, should I get into Amazon? We both know that you can still make money on Amazon, especially even if you're starting out with like £500. But would you have any like tips or advice for people just starting out with arbitrage on how they can separate themselves out, how they can get an edge over their competition?
I think is to learn as much as you possibly can. Like we said at the start, always be learning, always be consuming, and probably from a starting out point of view, it depends the circumstances that you're in, obviously. I wouldn't encourage anyone to take a wage from it at the start. If they can, just try and reinvest as much as possible. Amazon arbitrage, I actually don't think that there is any other model on Amazon that can scale as quickly as arbitrage can. So the more that you can put in terms of reinvestment, the more and the quicker that you will be able to scale. Do everything yourself to start with. I know I went into a 10-minute kind of tirade about make sure you outsource, make sure you do this, but take that as an opportunity to learn about the platform. So when you start out, it can be very tempting to fall into people's funnels of prep centers and, software and things like that. But do as much as you possibly can yourself to start with, so you understand how to run the business, and when it does come to that period of time of outsourcing, you know that when you do bring somebody onto your team, that you can give them the right amount of knowledge for them to do the role, to the maximum efficiency, but also that they're not doing a bad job. Because if you don't know if they're not doing a bad job, if you don't have the experience to spot that because you've been through it yourself, then you could end up, kind of not being in a very good position. So prep yourself to start, manually source, really understand and I suppose take the time to learn the art of manual sourcing. I think that that's something people really don't talk about enough, because it is definitely one of the, the best ways of learning about the type of products to sell, where to source from, all of these different types of things. And then know your numbers, essentially to start with. So make sure that you are tracking what you're doing. Don't live in the land of la la land, where all of a sudden you check your figures after a year and you find out that you've not been making any money, or you've, or even if you're reinvesting those profits, it's, it's all been kind of hidden. So make sure that you're always checking and, reviewing your business, at least on a minimum of a monthly basis.
Fantastic advice. Yeah, it's very easy to look at the top line numbers and think, oh, I'm making lots of money. And also, as you say, I think it's just crucial that listeners realise that you do need to do it all yourself, and hopefully become an expert in it before, because if you're hiring someone in the Philippines, how can you expect them to do a good job if you don't know how to do it well yourself, right? But on the topic of like gaining knowledge, obviously there's plenty of like resources you can go to on YouTube. We both know that the Facebook groups are a fantastic resource
of absolutely
knowledge. So like, do you want to delve into kind of how you got into the Facebook group and like where that's taken you in terms of like the products that you offer via Facebook?
Yeah, so it's just fell into the Facebook communities like anyone else, really. And the first one that I kind of got into was Matt Webley's Secret Wealth Project, where I think most people start their Amazon journey.
Yep.
I'd already started selling on Amazon before, before I discovered the Secret Wealth Project. But it was like, oh my God, there's all these. I think I joined when there was about like 2,000 people in there or something. And so it was on the lower side of what it is now. And I was like, oh my God, there's like 2,000 other crazy people in the world that, in the country that are doing what we did, because there was a real lack of Amazon communities for the UK. They were all over America, but there wasn't any Amazon communities in the UK. And Matt was definitely one of the first to start an Amazon community around that time. And just saw how many people, so many people owe their business now, probably to starting out, through the Secret Wealth Project. I don't think Matt gets enough credit for that. And, people running their own Amazon communities now, again, it became very popular to kind of build your own Amazon community. Again, something I think a lot of people kind of looked at the Secret Wealth Project. It was being done well and was like, yeah, I'm going to have a bit of that too. So it was something that I was in that kind of community. And then, I ended up talking to Matt, and he said, hey, do you fancy doing a bit of content? Because, you sound like you know what you're talking about. So, do you fancy doing a bit of content? So I started writing a few posts, and then we started doing a few lives. And we literally did this thing. We did a live event about 3 years ago. And I've always been someone that I think the best... Well, yeah, I always think the best of people, but I always think people have, the knowledge that is kind of in my head or whatever. I would think, well, of course they do. Not everyone knows that, but I think, well, yeah, they've been doing it for Amazon for 2 years. Of course they know that. I just assume that everyone knows that. And we did this live event, and as Matt asked me to speak, and kind of fell apart. I was like, I've never really spoken in public that much before. And I was like, falling over my words. And I ended up talking about keeper sourcing and how you can utilize keeper for sourcing. And there was about 100 people in the room. And I was like looking at the audience, and I was talking about it. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm boring these people to death. They all know this. It's something that I just sort of, shut up, Natalie, kind of thing. And when I got to the end of it, so many people came up to me afterwards, and they were like, you can use Keeper to source. And like nobody in the room knew that. Like nobody in the room knew it at all. And there were some very experienced sellers in the room. And so, Matt came to me afterwards, and he said, well, that knowledge was amazing. Do you kind of have any more? And I was like, yeah, we've got loads of stuff that we do like that. So I created a learning course for it that we did in Secret Wealth Project, and it went down really, really well, and people enjoyed it. So then after that, I liked making courses. They were okay. But what I didn't like about the courses was the information went out of date really quickly. We know Amazon moves so quickly. I would put something in one of the modules and 2 months later it'd be out of date. So that's when we came up with the idea for the Elite Sellers Academy, where you'll find me hanging out most of the time now, which is where I concentrate most of the training that we do. So we do live training every single week in the Elite Sellers Academy. So it means that if I've taught something the month before and it's gone out of date, it doesn't matter. I can go into a live session that week and say, guys, remember I said about this? Well, guess what? Amazon's put a policy change in place. And now instead of 200 words, 200 characters in the title, if it's a certain type of product, it needs to be a maximum of 120 characters. Whereas it's getting on that level and making the big difference, because when you do have things that move as quickly as Amazon does, and Amazon not telling you things move, and you only find out this thing through trial and error, it's handy to be able to vocalize that for people to put into effect quickly. So that's how we came up with the Elite Sellers Academy.
Nice. Yeah, no, I love that. I definitely want to maybe do something like that in the future. And it does baffle me how so many people don't realize the power of Keeper as well, right? So it's interesting that you, like, even now, so like it's 3 years on, right, since you did that, people still don't get it, which is crazy. I think there's still such a skills gap there.
Oh, absolutely. And it was something, and I know more people talk about Keeper sourcing now, and it was just something that we'd always sourced on Keeper because it is the source of Amazon information. So it's Amazon's database of knowledge. And it's a bit of a learning curve, how you have to adapt the filters and your search. And it's not perfect. It has its flaws, definitely. But I would say if you're looking in particular, I know you use it for books, don't you, quite a lot? Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and it's something that it's really good for certain niche areas on Amazon. So you can't just have Keeper and just do Keeper and that's it, and that's a bit of advice I'd also give, for people to try different things. Don't stick to just one thing. Don't stick to just one Facebook group. Expose yourself to as much as possible, absorb as much information as possible. But always be open to learning and opportunity. I think, that's one of the most important things. But it still amazes me now, that Keeper is still relatively, a relative secret.
Yeah, it's kind of an untapped resource in a way. And then the fact that it only costs like €15 a month or $20 a month is still baffling to me.
Well, when I started out, Keeper was free.
Wow.
Yeah, they only started charging about 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I think I can't remember actually. Yeah, I must have just been on it just as they started to charge.
And do you know what the funny thing was? There was a little bit of an uproar that they started charging for it. And I remember being in the groups at the time, I was like, come on, guys, this is phenomenal. And they only want €15 for it. I can't believe they haven't charged before now. And there was like a little bit of an uproar about when people first started having to pay for Keeper, which is mad.
It is mad because I'd probably pay 10 times as much. And also I just think great advice, like you say, learn from different Facebook groups, learn from different people putting out content. And there's so many different ways to source, and you're definitely going to have an edge if you find, a slightly nuanced way to source. Like, for example, with books, there's just so many different ways of doing it. There's lots of different sites. So, utilize that. But we are...
I think it's the only area we've never ever gone into, and I always like to say never, but it's an area that I think is very specialised. I don't know if you agree that I think the people that sell books tend to sell books, or is that right, or is that a
I think you're possibly right there. It's not for everyone, and I think it's probably the lowest barrier to entry because nearly everyone will have a book in their house that they can probably sell. So it'll get you on easily. But I think a lot of people will transition from books in someone else, or they'll just stay in books. I hope that I'll back the trend at some point, but we'll see.
That's crazy because I actually see books as you say it's a low barrier to entry, whereas I see it as one of the harder models on Amazon. one of the more specialized areas on Amazon.
Possibly.
So that's interesting.
Maybe I'll just happy.
I think you're selling yourself short.
Yeah, no, I'm just happy not to be in competition with you. But no, like, thank you so much for sharing your story. Like, we're coming up to an hour and a half now, so I want to be respectful of your time. But I'd love to know.
It's never going to be like 45 minutes for me. Sorry.
No, that's great. I think the more content, the better. As we talked about, long form content, that's what we want. But I'd love to know, like, what your plans are for this year, maybe next. Like, do you have goals for the private label brand, for Elite Sellers Academy? Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to try and create as much content as possible for people. And myself and another seller are going to do a private label case study. So it's going to be completely free. It's going to be, not charged content, because I think, there's enough private label courses out there and things like that. And I think that I do not consider myself to be an expert in private labels. So what I thought might be quite interesting, I've seen a few other people do it successfully. I'm a big fan of like the Helium 10, Project X, the Jungle Scout, what did they do? The $1 million challenge and things like that. So I'd like to create something where we can show the full process from start to finish and really open people's eyes in, what could go right, what could go wrong. Because like I said, I think sometimes seeing what mistakes people make can be just as valuable as, seeing a success, if that makes sense. So you don't repeat those kind of mistakes. So it is going to be a really big learning curve. There's not going to be any guarantees or promises that it's going to be, a £1 million product or anything like that. We haven't even started on it yet. So that's going to be something that's going to be the main focus, as well as the Elite Sellers Academy. That's going to be the main focus of our content side of things this year. And then building this, I call it a brand with a plan. So really building something that has that ability to be able to grow into a brand that we can potentially sell at a later stage, or, depends on, how successful at what level, because again, the idea is a brand with a plan to sell it at a later stage. But then if you've got a brand that's doing really, really well, why would you sell it? So there's all of these different types of areas. But yeah, exploring private label more, definitely in the various different markets with our US product. We launched in Canada last month.
Oh, wow.
We're selling now in the UK, and the next step for that is Germany and France. And then this particular product, we think Germany will be the second biggest market after the US. Canada's done very well. I don't know, do you sell in Canada?
You can sell books, but
Canada?
there's like an inventory upload issue that I'm having at the moment, but you can. I might do at some point.
Yeah, no, the market surprised us, actually. It's busier than we thought it was going to be. And so expansion on that into the different areas. And it might be a bit ambitious for this year, but we would like to look at the Australian and the Asian market for our, US brand, purely because, again, it would lend very well to that particular market. And but whether that will happen, I think we're being a bit ambitious in timescale in terms of that. So yeah, lots of exciting things.
Yeah, that sounds really great. So you're pretty much trying to expand into any market that looks like it will be viable. And yeah, I mean, what about like Mexico or something as well?
Yes, that's interesting, actually, because I don't think it will be one we'll look at this year. The market, I don't know enough about the market, to be completely honest, and I don't know how well. The first thing in my head is the Mexican market wouldn't lend as well to the product,
right?
But I could be wrong. Yeah,
I only say that just because I'm going there in like 2 weeks. I went there last year, and also I know it's very easy to sell from the US to Mexico, and that's the same with Canada, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I actually think it's probably easier to sell to Mexico from the US than it is Canada. You would think, they're on the same continent, essentially, but it's there's a lot of bottlenecks to the Canadian market in terms of very expensive to import. But I'd imagine that's due to the the geographical nature of it more than anything else.
Right, yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, it's all learning. Yeah, it's all learning curves and it's all experience. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to exploring, and I don't want to say exploiting because that's the wrong word, but sort of capitalizing on Amazon's newfound kind of importance on the brand. It really ticks a lot of my boxes in terms of level of interest and what we want to do from that respect. So yeah, I think it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be lots of learning curves. Yeah, probably make as many mistakes as we will have successes. So but yeah, it's all learning along the way, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a bit of a passion project, and it's going to challenge you, and it's going to be exciting, interesting, and hopefully make you a ton of money, and hopefully you'll get that exit if you want, or you'll just keep selling if you're doing incredibly well. But
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think different platforms as well this year as well. That's part of the plan. So I know this is predominantly Amazon, but we've literally just opened an Etsy account, so we're looking at that. And that's a different type of product. That's actually about 3 months ago, just before Christmas, at our warehouse, we purchased some machinery to manufacture our own product as well. It's a very kind of niche product again, so which lends very well to the Etsy market. So that's something we're going to be launching over the summer as well. So yeah.
Cool. So many things going on.
When I hear it out loud, I'm like, oh my God, I better start writing stuff down. When I sort of like think, but yeah, everything on a physical product point of view is definitely more in terms of our own creation moving forward. That's the plan for sure.
Awesome. I mean, hopefully we can do a round two in a certain amount of time, and I'm sure you have a ton of different things going on and a few more successes and potentially failures to talk about as well, but it's all interesting.
Absolutely.
All learning points.
Yeah,
so I know we've mentioned where we can find you a little bit, but do you want to just like plug what you want to plug here? Where can people go to find out more? Elite Sellers Academy, things like that?
We're the Elite Sellers Academy, so it is a closed private Facebook group. So the best thing to do is probably just reach out to me via Facebook. So just find me on Facebook, and I don't know if this is going on YouTube. Maybe I'll give you a link where you can find me, or something like that, and we can have a chat. But also I create content for Secret Wealth Project as well, so please make sure that if you are starting out on the Amazon journey, there's some great phenomenal resources in there as well that will help people get started along the way.
Awesome. Yeah, I thoroughly recommend the Secret Wealth Project, because that's where I first found arbitrage, and with one of Matt Webley's YouTube videos, so I know that's really good. Like, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your wealth of knowledge. It's been a great conversation, I think, and people get lots of value from it. So yeah, thank you again, and hopefully we'll speak soon. And I think that's about a wrap.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for having me, Seth. I really, really enjoyed it, and hope someone somewhere got some value out of it.
I'm sure they will have. All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you've made it this far, you may as well leave this video a like. If you've been watching on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for future episode updates. Or if you've been listening on Apple Podcasts, it would be absolutely amazing if you could leave us a review, as that makes a world of difference. Thank you again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao for now.